Christy, and first and foremost, thanks to the PayDirt team for putting on another excellent conference, and really like to thank everyone for making the time to come and see the Ardea presentation today. So I'll be providing an update on our Kalgoorlie nickel project and the work the team's undertaking to complete our PFS and continue to advance this globally significant project towards development. Standard disclaimer, the presentation's available on the ASX platform and the Ardea website. So I'll just set the scene with the Chinese dominating every aspect of the lithium-ion battery supply chain. They account for over 90%. And we've seen recent government initiatives such as last year's US Inflation Reduction Act. Last week we saw the European Union come out with a Critical Raw Materials Act, and it's all about encouraging supply chain diversity, ensuring supply chain security, and we're continuing to see governments right around the world wanting to support battery and critical minerals projects. So there's never been a better time for Ardea to have such a globally significant project as the KMP. And as we heard from Minister Johnston and other presenters here today, Western Australia clearly is the best resources operating jurisdiction in the world. This slide just reiterates that fact. So it's a pretty scary statistic that only 16% of the world is classified as a low-risk operating jurisdiction, and of course Western Australia is the foremost resource operating jurisdiction. So just to put the KMP into perspective, there's some 5.9 million tonnes of contained nickel and 384,000 tonnes of contained cobalt. Giant deposits like this are a rarity, and they enable companies and offtake organisations to plan strategically with decades in mind. This won't be a 5 or 10 year operation, it'll be a 40-year project just on the Goongarrie hub, and then we've got the other KMP resources as well. Ardea retains 100% of our project, 100% of the offtake, and that's a strategic move. We've got a number of discussions ongoing with some large mining companies, lithium-ion battery manufacturers and OEMs right around the world. So it's about being able to select the preferred partner that's going to work with Ardea to develop this project. We're using proven technology. We're very conscious that high-pressure acid leach and atmospheric leach technology, it's been around for decades now. We're up to the 5th generation. It is tried and true. We are looking forward to releasing our PFS in the June quarter of this year. It'll include a significantly enhanced ore reserve update, the detailed PFS report and a financial model. So we just can't wait to get that information into the public domain. Just in terms of the nickel market, we're all acutely aware of the rapid growth in the lithium-ion battery sector for energy storage and electric vehicles in particular, and that rapid growth is only going to continue to accelerate. So it's our view that all nickel resources right around the world are going to need to be developed to ensure sufficient supply, and particularly those here in Western Australia that can guarantee ethical and sustainable battery mineral supply. And if we look at the declining stockpiles of nickel around the world, we need that rapid supply response. Our location, so our Goongarrie hub's only 70 kilometres northwest of the city of Kalgoorlie-Boulder, so it is a premier location to be located and the best operating jurisdiction in the world. We've got access to that skilled workforce, incredibly supportive communities that know and understand the resources sector. We've got no competing land use. It really is a great location, and we've got existing infrastructure passing through our granted mining leases at Goongarrie, road, rail, gas pipeline just 30 kilometres to our east. So everything's set up to develop this project, including the links to the deep sea ports. We maintain a local office. We have a fantastic local team, and that local stakeholder engagement on a regular basis is really important. I'm heading up to Kalgoorlie with a number of my colleagues for the week next week we'll be undertaking a detailed technical workshop. The resource now, so we'll zoom in on Goongarrie. So the Goongarrie Hub tenements are shown there in the red. We mentioned the globally significant resource, and the PFS is focused on the premium goethite ore and the highest grade ore. So a little bit about the deposit now and what makes Goongarrie so unique. So it's 25 kilometres of strike just to the Goongarrie deposits. We've had preferential weathering over about 2.8 billion years. We've had the Lake Goongarrie used to overlie parts of the deposit, the three southern deposits, Goongarrie South, Big Four and Scotia Dam, and we've seen multiple movements in the water table. So all the silicate minerals have been leached out, so we're left with this premium iron-rich crumbly goethite material. So it's a low acid consumer. The deposits are amenable to conventional open pit mining with a low strip ratio, free dig, and again we'll be able to quantify the ore reserve update in the coming months with the PFS. So here's a photo of the goethite. It is the best in class ore for processing, and that's why we're going to start our operation at Goongarrie. If you take the time to look at our appendix, you can look at the Goongarrie metallurgical performance compared with to prior and existing operations here in Western Australia, and it is the best performing ore in all cases. So our PFS is based on two 1.5 million tonne per annum autoclaves, proven tech, and then a 500,000 tonne per annum atmospheric leach circuit. We will be starting to produce mixed hydroxide precipitate, and we're continuing to evaluate the production of PCAM through our membership of the Future Battery Industry Cooperative Research Centre. We have proven the mineralised neutraliser concept, so at the base of the laterite deposits we have sap rock. That sap rock is weathered, and it also contains elevated nickel and cobalt units. We can screen it. The fines will be atmospheric leach feed, and then the coarse magnesite-rich material is a natural neutraliser for the acid discharge. So that means we don't have to import as much limestone. We're not having the same CO2 emissions. We've got lower consumable costs, and of course we get the extra nickel and cobalt credits. So we've got a patent pending on that R&D breakthrough. We're also going to evaluate the byproduct credit potential from scandium and rare earths as part of the DFS. Here's an example of the mineralised neutraliser, and I'll just point out the white magnesite material, so it's very clear that you can screen off the brown goethite-rich material. That's extra ore feed, and then we've got that magnesite neutraliser. In terms of proven technology, we've seen Sumitomo Metal Mining out of Japan successfully develop Coral Bay and Taganito in the Philippines. You know, it's a tropical environment. You know, you don't have access to the workforce and the infrastructure that we have at the KMP and at the Goongarrie Hub. So Sumitomo have done an outstanding job there, and we know the technology works, and recent HPAL projects developed in Indonesia have reportedly ramped up within 3 months to reach nameplate capacity. So we look forward to emulating those successes. We have industry-leading low CO2 emissions. As you can see on this figure, less than a quarter of your standard nickel produced out of jurisdictions like Indonesia. We were continuing to drive those CO2 emissions down through in progress PFS work streams. We're just about to submit our life cycle assessment to Minbiro. We anticipate independent sign-off on that in the coming months, and as I say, we're continuing to drive those CO2 emissions down, and we will be industry leading in that regard. So it's all about the ESG, the existing practices that have been established in Western Australia over many decades. We've had mining in the eastern goldfields for some 130 years. You know, the community know and understand mining, and because of the leadership from the federal and state governments, our battery mineral supply is ethical and sustainable. And another example of that shown in this figure. So it'll be a closed loop cycle. So we will have the open pit voids. We will dispose of the neutralised slurry tailings in the open pits. We will then cap that with waste rock and finally stockpile topsoil, and then we will revegetate the mining areas. So it's that closed loop. And again, you can see the image on the right. That's the Great Western Woodland. This area rehabilitates very well. We have none of the challenges of operating a tropical jurisdiction where you've got seismic activity, high rainfall, etc. In terms of the timeline, so we've got a dedicated team working with quality service providers. I can't wait to get the PFS completed. That'll be at the tail end of the June quarter. We will continue our engagement with strategic partners with the aim of completing the PFS and then being able to do any additional engineering work and commencing the DFS as quickly as possible. When I'm asked, well, how soon can you get into production? My response is always, well, the sooner we're engaging and we're working with our preferred strategic partner, the more rapid the pathway to production. Just with Ardea's tenement portfolio, we've got about 4,100 square kilometres. It is one of the largest land holdings on ultramafic stratigraphy in Australia. So while our priority is very much on completing the Goongarrie Hub PFS and being able to advance that project towards production, we can't lose sight of the bigger picture for battery and critical minerals exploration upside. So I've been undertaking some nickel sulphide exploration at Emu Lake with some success, and we have 20 kilometres of strike purely controlled by Ardea, and only a small fraction of that area, about 1.6 kilometres, has been drilled. So we look forward to further work and further success there. There's an example of the higher grade, massive sulphides there, and again, strong nickel, but also cobalt and copper byproduct credit potential. We've got the workshop in Kalgoorlie next week, and this will be one of several projects discussed in detail. On the 30th of January this year, we announced a clay-hosted rare earth element discovery 1 kilometre to the west of our nickel cobalt laterite resources at Goongarrie. Early days, but it's incredibly encouraging. 3.5 kilometres of strike, open in every direction. Our first step has been taking samples for metallurgical test work. That's underway at the moment. We all understand that with rare earth elements, it's unlocking the metallurgy. So we aim to demonstrate that we've got favourable metallurgical performance in the coming months, and then we can justify additional work there, and that's all about potential value add to the project. But again, the widths and grades of the mineralisation are very encouraging for this early stage, and when you compare it to peer rare earth element discoveries, we think there's a lot of potential at Goongarrie West. We've been undertaking some low-cost, highly effective boots-on-ground exploration for lithium pegmatites at projects like Perringvale and Ghost Rocks. Early days, very encouraging results, and we'll be continuing that work, and we're waiting on outstanding assay results. In terms of ESG, it's just an essential part of doing business. It's a non-negotiable. We commenced last year working with Digby ESG, and we will be undertaking an annual independent audit. Our first rating as BBB was reportedly to be outstanding by Jamie Strauss of Digby ESG, so we'll be continuing to build upon that strong platform. So just in closing, so we've got this globally significant resource that's been advanced towards development and production through the in-progress PFS. We have retained 100% of the offtake, and that's the most valuable item we have. It's all about working with preferred partners to advance this project. Once you give away the offtake, you can't give it back. So it's all about ensuring the best value for our shareholders and all our stakeholders. We have been completing very strong R&D and ESG work with outstanding performance. We have the ongoing exploration work so we can continue that blue sky and adding value to our portfolio projects. So in closing, I'm very conscious of the time and we've got to stick to the agenda. I don't want to have the bell ring, but yeah, we've got the successful local team, we've got the best operating location in the world, we've got a globally significant resource that's going to be developed using proven technology, and we've never seen greater demand for battery and critical minerals. So thanks very much for your time, and I encourage you to come and see the Ardea team at booth 27, and we're more than happy to discuss any questions you've got in more detail. Thank you.